Oh my god, I'm never going to get this word out. Anthropomorphic animals are nothing new. From old Greek legends to Alice in Wonderland, all the way up to Mickey Mouse and Kung Fu Panda. And while these characters often take a very special place in our children's media and literature, let's not forget the harsher topics that they cover. And no, I'm not just talking about Watership Down. These animals have been used to explore not only the lighter side of life, but sometimes the darkest parts of humanity. This is a topic that I, as a vampire author, never really thought I would get into. But as my hobbit starts watching more television, I've been pre-screening some of the movies I remember from childhood. And while some remain as cute and cuddly as I remember, some took a darker tone. So I want to talk to someone who's more engaged with this side of the media. Please help me in welcoming my guest today, award-winning author Becca Lee Gardner. We'll be taking a look at Zootopia, Kung Fu Panda, and Rescuers Down Under to break down the tropes and the humanity of these characters. It looks like you really love to write fantasy that looks wholesome, but it doesn't look childish. Does that make sense when I say that?
When I write adult fiction, it's usually to scare people. Like usually I blend in horror and suspense elements into sci-fi and fantasy. And then I accidentally kind of became a middle grade author. I told a bedtime story to my kids during the pandemic, and it just kind of like became a thing. My whole goal is to give big epic stories to young readers. So I don't like to write down to them. I just like to make it bite-sized and available. Because I've got 3 kids, and we all want adventures and dragons and cool nights, and we want that, but it's not always accessible.
I love that. It kind of makes me think of like how J.R.R. Tolkien and the author of Watership Down kind of described their process in coming up with those novels, where they were really just writing for a very specific audience, the one that they loved the most, their child. And then they end up with the story that everyone loved because there was so much attention to detail and so much care in the fact that, yes, this is a young mind. This is something I'm even noticing with my 3-year-old. I'm obviously not going to let him watch Watership Down. Let's be clear about that. There's definitely this mentality, and I think it's more prevalent now, where it's like, oh, we have to make them fluffy and cute and da-da. It's like, when I was a kid, we watched Lion King. Lion King is not fluffy and cute. I think addressing those topics is actually better for kids at that age, because then they're not stunned by it when they grow up to be adults.
In your kids' world, they're fighting monsters right now. Whether it's a nightmare or a bully at school, or, I mean, even worse, there are kids that are dealing with, like, abusive situations or neglect. Like, there are real big things aimed at kids. Looking down to them doesn't serve them, right? Giving them hope and courage and letting stories show them that there's a way through, no matter what they're facing. That's what they need.
Kids take these stories with them. They do. They take these lessons with them in such a heartfelt manner, as long as you make it meaningful and emotional. I think that is, again, just so well illustrated by the very first movie you picked, and that was Zootopia.
Is that Mr. Pig?
No.
What about him? Is that him?
No.
That's gotta be him.
Stop talking, stop talking, stop talking. Mr. Big, sir, this is a simple Yep, here. This is a simple misunderstanding.
You come here unannounced on the day my daughter is to be married.
Well, actually, we were brought here against our will, so... Point is, I did not know that it was your car, and I certainly did not know about your daughter's wedding.
No. I trusted you, Nikki. I welcomed you into my home. We broke bread together. Grandmama made you a cannoli. And how did you repay my generosity? With a rug made from the butt of a skunk. A skunk butt rug. You disrespected me. You disrespected my grandmama, who I buried in that skunk butt rug. I told you never to show your face here again, but here you are, snooping around with this... What are you? A performer? What's with the costume?
Sir, I am a cop.
Mime? She is a mime. This mime cannot speak. You can't speak if you're a mime.
No, I am a cop. And I'm on the Emmett Otterton case, and my evidence puts him in your car. So intimidate me all you want. I'm going to find out what you did to that otter if it's the last thing I do.
No. Then I have only one request. Say hello to Grandmama. Isom.
Oh, I didn't see nothing. I'm not saying nothing.
And you never will.
Please. No. If you're mad at me about the rug, I've got more rugs.
Daddy! It's time for our dance. What did we say? No? I sing one at my wedding.
I have to, baby. Daddy has to. Ice him.
No.
Wait. She's the bunny that saved my life yesterday from that giant donut.
This bunny?
Yeah. Hi.
Hi. I love your dress.
Thank you.
When you first picked Zootopia, I'm not gonna lie, I thought for sure I was gonna pull up that sloth clip. That's the most infamous clip. And then what do? You subvert my expectations.
Zootopia is a fascinating story for a lot of reasons. It's entertaining. It has a message, but it's not message heavy, meaning that the message doesn't subvert the story. It harmonizes with it. Part of the reason I picked this clip is because I love these characters so much. Again, subverting expectations, right? You know, you see competent characters like Nick Fox out of his element. He is in control at the beginning of the movie, and in this moment, he's lost it. Entirely lost his control.
Con man kind of falls away pretty quickly when he's like, oh, I'm in danger.
Right.
Because I did something stupid.
Exactly, and you see him being vulnerable, which is a key part of creating characters and creating character arcs. It's like you build in that vulnerability. There are times where they're competent and there are times where they're not.
Yeah, you can't just have a wet noodle, even if you look at like To Kill a Mockingbird, Harper Lee's book, which has Scout, the little girl. The little girl is not the main lawyer. She's not these things, but she is adventurous. She is observant. They have to contribute to the story, is basically what I'm taking away from what you're saying.
And growth. Like there's in Zootopia, there's so much growth for both of these characters. You see progress.
The entire time, Judy thinks she's in control. And this kind of bites her in the butt when she thinks, oh, it's just a tiny little, what is that, possum? I don't know what that is.
Right. Yeah, like the whole story could end right here. What I love too is that like Judy's kindness is what she needs, right? She thinks that she needs to be just tough, take no nonsense kind of cop, but what is actually needed is just what she's already had. If she hadn't have saved this little mole rat while she was, you know, chasing the weasel, this would have been the end of the movie, and it would have been a dark, you know, Watership Down kind of story. To go back to that, it's a beautiful character moment, and it's one of the reasons why this movie I think is timeless, at least for me and my family. You have like the little guy is the bad guy, playing with themes here because Judy Hopps is tiny, and we know that she's facing a lot of problems because she's tiny. She feels powerless because she's tiny, and now she sees this tiny mob boss who has
all. And she projects that forward to an extent,
Right. So we're starting to break that expectation. Like, hey, it is possible for Tiny to be powerful because look at this guy, and he's controlling these giant polar bears.
It's a whole nother layer because I mean the big theme that they focus on is prejudice. You know, we talked earlier about how children's media does not have to avoid serious topics, and this is a movie that does a fantastic job of addressing a serious topic of your preconceptions of people and how you can be trying to do the right thing and still make some serious blunders.
Right.
And this scene kind of illustrates that. I hadn't really thought of that till you said it, in the fact that, yes, she does treat this crime boss incorrectly and does not respect his power, even though his power is on full display. The subtext is clear. He is the guy who has all the goods. God knows if that's blackmail or whatever. The movie doesn't explain it, which I kind of love. The mystery kind of adds to that mob boss. But it does kind of show the beginning of that character arc where she's kind of also got some of those preconceptions that she has not accepted. She thinks, oh, I know everything. No, she doesn't.
It's so good to have that growth. I love that she is both the victim of those preconceptions and perpetrator of some of them, you know?
Yeah.
We see that with Nick at the very end, and she comes face to face with it again and again and doesn't quite address it because that's what needs to be addressed. That's like the dark night of the soul kind of moment in the story where she's going to address that, fully uprooted out of herself in order to change. To have both of those in a single character that's adorable and lovable and infinitely proactive. You can't get her to stop trying. Even when she's making mistakes, she's still trying. And I just absolutely adorable and a good example of what I try to do when I'm making a flawed character. Both adults and kids can love.
Now, one thing, because obviously we're talking about, and it's such a pain in the butt word to pronounce, anthropomorphic animals. One thing is this movie does also play into the fact that if you have an animal character, you're not going to want them to behave 100% human. You're going to want them to have human qualities. But there is also like the whole thing of Zootopia having different quadrants because people have different needs in this society. So is that something that you kind of find you bring into your own work as well? I know you just did your Adventure Cat series, which the first book looks freaking adorable. I will definitely be getting a copy of that.
I have 2 series now where the protagonists are animals. My first series was Min the Mighty, and that the main character is the tiny red dragon. It has different goals, as in she's a natural distrust of humans, and she's got like this definite pull to save the big dragons. Like there are human qualities to her, but she also has her own different value set being a dragon. With Adventure Cats, the fun part of that story is that up until chapter 3, my heroes are human, but a spell goes wild and changes all of those 5 heroes into cats and spreads them across the land. And at that point, you get to pick which cat you follow to the end of the story. So it's a little bit choose your own adventure at that point. And what was so fun is that I forced my human characters to face their flaws in cat form. So I used anthropomorphism in Adventure Cats to force my human characters to grow, to be in fact more human.
Basically, it sounds like you're using those naturally understood attributes of animals, almost in its own trope, to subvert any exposition and allow the characters to grow with something that the reader is going to already kind of naturally understand.
Yeah, bringing in what the reader expects from a dragon or a cat and marrying it with some human attributes. The interesting thing is like, for me as a kid, I related more to animal characters than I did human characters. I'm not exactly sure why, but so I'm sort of drawn to that too when I'm writing characters. I feel like kids can express more freely in these spaces.
That's kind of what I've noticed too. Hey y'all, just a 5-second intermission to remind you that these videos are sponsored by me and my Vampire Buddy Cop mystery series. So if you enjoy all these different interviews and finding new authors you've probably never heard of, please make sure you're not only hitting the subscribe and the like button, but going over to ehdrake.com to check out free chapters and audiobook samples of my Vampire Buddy Cop mystery series. This is what keeps the channel going and helps me find you all these new interviews. Now back to the episode. Especially watching this next movie, which is my son's first obsession. Like we all know, kids have that one movie that they just obsess over for the longest time. And for a while, my family could not escape Kung Fu Panda, no matter how hard we tried.
What are you doing here? Ah! Hi! Good morning, Master. I thought I'd warm up a little.
You're stuck.
Stuck? Nah, what? Stuck? Nah, this is one of my... Yeah, I'm stuck.
Help him.
Oh, dear.
And maybe on 3. 1, 2. Thank you.
Don't mention it.
No, really, I appreciate it.
Ever.
You actually thought you could learn to do a full split in one night?
It takes years to develop one's flexibility, and years longer to apply it in combat.
Put that down. The only souvenirs we collect here are bloody knuckles and broken bones.
Yeah. Excellent.
Let's get started.
Are you ready?
I was born ready.
I'm sorry, brother. I thought you said you were ready.
That was awesome! Let's go again! Whoa!
I've been taking it easy on you, Panda, but no more. Your next opponent will be me.
All right, yeah, let's go!
Step forth. The true path to victory is to find your opponent's weakness and make him suffer for it.
Oh, yeah!
To take his strength and use it against him until he finally falls or quits.
But a real warrior never quits. Don't worry, Master. I will never quit! Ah!
Each of the 5 have their own unique strengths that are inherent to them. It's foreshadowing because you look at a panda and you're like, it doesn't have any kung fu strengths, right? He has all of the heart, he has all the desire, but he doesn't have any inherent kung fu strengths. But of course, you get that twist that just with the right motivation, he has exactly what he needs, right?
It's fine because it's also a really good anti-hero and a really good chosen one at the same time. Like, it uses so many tropes and they're so just underneath the surface hidden because it's a silly, cute comedy. But the silly, cute comedy honestly makes my heart warm up every flippin' time. I don't care that I've watched it 100 times with my 3-year-old. It's a very well done story. It's very tight and very clean. And a big part of that is using the characters to your best advantage.
The underdog nature of this story is so key to this storytelling style. Watching Poe like flop around when he's training, and we all feel like we're not fully equipped for our life, right? Like what the challenges we have, like there's an element of I'm not equal to what is being asked of me. But especially for kids, like it's a big world and like things change really rapidly. And so seeing Poe be that underdog of like, he doesn't look like he has inherent strength, but he's got all the enthusiasm and interest, and he will not give up on this no matter how much he gets throttled around. Like it's just magic. Like it's such a good story. And again, like you say, a good use of tropes here.
Especially later on when he does eventually show his strength. Like, he does some really great training with Shifu where he starts to do the more traditional kung fu just in his own way. But then you get to his final fight and he's really playing to his own strengths. A lot of the stuff you see here is not stuff he would have learned from Shifu. Like he embraces the fact that, hey, I'm not going to do kung fu the way Tigress does it, even though I idolize her. I'm going to have to do it my own way and find my own path in this. And it's only once he does that he really earns that respect. When he's trying to do it their way, his ass gets kicked.
Again, that inherent power of leaning into the you, right? Like being yourself. Because Poe is all like sort of round and tumbly and bouncy, but he takes hits. We've seen him just continue to get walloped in training and go and get back up and keep fighting. And that is a key element to him winning his final battle. So the hits kind of
they can bounce,
right? Yeah,
they bounce.
He's bounceable, and that he can fully accept that, like, because he's not. If he was like a lion character or something that looks strong, we wouldn't be able to get the message of there is no secret sauce, right? Like there's no secret ingredient. It's believing that you have a secret ingredient that makes you like act that way. It makes you own it. And we wouldn't have gotten that message so well if it had been a more traditional character.
And speaking of something that is more traditional, we just talked about 2 movies that are relatively new. This next one was one of the ones you picked. And yeah, I have to say, I'd honestly forgotten about Rescuers Down Under.
Push it a little bit farther. You take it back a little bit. And then you turn it once more around. And you take it back. Give up. I'll never get this. We're doomed.
Hey, look. Cribs. Frank's out.
Frank, you're free.
I'm free? I'm free.
Joanna will hear.
Double or Nothing is caught in 5 minutes.
Calm down, little mate. Look at me. I'm free. Frank, get the keys.
I should get the keys.
Quiet.
Yep. Now take it easy. I'll get you loose. There you go. Now go get the keys.
The keys. Yeah. Keys. You can't reach them.
Quick, get something to stand on.
Yeah, stand on. Something to stand on.
This ought to be rich.
Yeah, stand on.
Frank. Use the box. Climb up on the box.
Who's that box?
These are heavy.
Oops.
The keys, Frank! Give us the keys! Frank, over here! Give us the keys!
If I didn't know any better, I'd think you didn't like it here.
You talk about dark stuff and kids being underdogs. These are movies about kids who have been kidnapped and are at the mercy of an adult who does not have the best of intentions.
And not pulling any punches on this one, right?
No.
There's a balance here where when you have very intense, scary, the stories that I love also dial up the silly. Like Joanna, the iguana, I guess. The big lizard, she is silly. There's an element of silly to this. Like, she's scary too, but there's silly. As like a release valve for kids. There are times to dial back the intensity, but sometimes you can dial up the ridiculous to like help the kid through this moment. There are bad guys out there and they look like adults, and that's scary. But there's also allies that you don't even know you have. And that's what the rescuers are, right? These very, very underdog characters, the tiniest characters we've talked about so far, and they're powerful, they're determined, they're capable. They seem entirely confident that they're going to help this kid, and they won't stop to do. This kid's in danger, but help is coming, and they're gonna figure this out.
And that's the thing with this particular duology with the rescuers. I mean, if you really want to talk about it, I think the mice are just an allegory for everything you've been talking about, where kids, they feel so out of sorts in this world because they are indeed small.
Right.
And if you want to get right down to it, we're all small, right? We're all one of a billion, trillion, blah, blah, blah. God knows what our population's at right now. But, as an adult, you just you've learned to deal with that. You've learned to kind of just roll with the punches and be whatever. But kids are still navigating that space while they are also physically smaller than the rest of us. And it's like, that's such an odd experience to realize how small you are in two different ways and realize how vulnerable that can make you. And I think the mice are just a great metaphor for that.
Exactly. And I think the key to not feeling small as an adult is to find your village, right? To find your community, to find your people, even if it's two people. Find your people, and then you don't feel so small. And this story does that, right? Because the kids don't have their own people to help them, but they have allies. They find their allies, which are tiny little mice. It's so valuable, I think, to give big adventures to kids. The kid is a rescuer too. Like, the kid isn't totally powerless. The kid is trying to rescue the eagle, and the mice are trying to rescue the kid, and they all do it in the end, right? I love the idea of kids approaching their monsters, their dragons, their problems by finding allies, finding people that will support them and help them in their purpose. Whatever that might be.
Because if you band together and you find the right friends, you're gonna be top notch. Like, the movie starts off, it doesn't start off with the rescuers, who are familiar characters from the first movie. It starts off showing the child actually working together with his local community of animals, and that does come back full round, much like what we were talking about earlier with Judy from Zootopia. Her kindness comes back around.
Right.
So I think that setup of be kind and do unto others as they will do unto you is definitely something that is established very well in good children's fiction.
Do the right thing, and no matter what bad and scary thing happens, it's going to pay off. Doing the right thing is going to be worth it. Like, it's inherently worth it. Whether the world changes for you or not, it's a happier place to be inside your own self.
You're changing your own world at the minimum.
Right, which is the only thing you really can change.
This is something I've noticed. My son is the adventurous kid. He is the one that is 3 years old, out climbing 6-year-olds. It's quite funny to watch sometimes, actually. And the other day, they were at the park, and there was this little 5-year-old girl. She wasn't as confident climbing for whatever reason. Doesn't matter, 5-year-olds are 5-year-olds.
Right.
And instead of just climbing ahead of her, my son stops, gets down, and starts going slower and says, hand here, hand here, hand here. And it took me a minute to realize he was actually trying to show her what to do. I was not my son at that age. I was the scared little girl.
Right.
I needed that confident friend to show me the way. I needed my Miss Bianca to show me where to go. I was the one that was terrified.
Yeah, and in different situations you switch, right? Kids are both. They're both very competent in their worlds, and they're also very vulnerable. And to have that whole experience.
That nuanced and holistic approach to them.
Yeah, and you can do it in one character, or you can represent it in multiple, so that we can sort of bounce between Bernard and Miss Bianca.
Absolutely. This is territory that you absolutely have far more experience than I do. But if you had one tip, just one thing that you could tell a new writer, someone who is maybe doing this kind of anthropomorphic animal, or maybe they're writing children's fiction, and you wanted to just help them learn something that you wish you'd known from the get-go, what do you think that would be?
It's hard to just narrow it down to one. I would say be honest. Be honest in the stories that you tell children. One of my favorite things about writing middle grade, and again, I didn't expect to write middle grade. I think it's made me such a better writer because I have to tell the truth. It has to be honest. So whether you're telling an adventure story or a mystery or any kind of mix-up of genres for kids, be honest. Access that part of you that was that age and fully represent them in that story. For instance, I wrote a book earlier this year called Bleep Blurb Murder about a tiny robot apocalypse that takes over a school during a robotics competition. It was partially inspired by my kid who's in a robotics club, and I was at a robotics competition, and I had this flash of a scene hit my head, and I was like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if the robots turned and broke free from their little rings and started attacking people. I sat down to write this book the next day, and as I wrote the first chapter, I realized that this character was dealing with his dad passing away, and my dad died when I was 12, and I didn't set out to be like, this is going to be a book about dealing with a parent dying and coming back into your confidence after your whole world is collapsed, but it turned into that. It was honest. I had to be honest. So this is the long way of saying, whatever you're going to write for kids, access your honesty. Tell it as honest as you can. And that's what resonates, right? That's what kids want.
No, I hear you. Just since you were involved with me, I'll let you know, yes, I've got a similar issue because I'm writing a young adult superhero novel. It's about a girl who has super strength, but she's in the foster care system. Her school breaks out into a school shooting, and she has to decide, is it more important for me to hide what I think makes me a freak and what I'm worried will turn me into a lab rat, or do I have to use this strength to protect the people around me? And I want to be very clear, I was not a foster care kid. That's not the part that was based off me. But what started this story is I was in a, we'll just say, negative situation as a child, and someone did try to harm me, and I had one moment where I told them, no, I'm not going to let you do that. I was 60 pounds if I was anything. I was a very tiny little girl, and for the longest time I told myself that I was weak, and I was so scared because that person could have easily beat the Jesus out of me. And it wasn't until I was probably 35 that I started to realize I was a 12-year-old little girl who stood up to someone who could have beat the bejesus out of her. That is strength. And that's the story that I wish I'd had as a kid, is that there is your own inherent strength available to you.
Yeah, and I think that's true whether you're writing middle grade or young adult or adult. Be honest, right? Sometimes we get caught up in I mean, to be clear, it's terrifying to show your writing to people, right? It's like opening all your cupboards and closets in your house and taking a tour. It's very vulnerable, and it's terrifying, but it's so important to be clear rather than clever. Sometimes writers think that they must make their plots so convoluted and clever, and they must make their characters outthink everything and be invulnerable, and sort of defense against just being clear, because being clear about what's going on and having vulnerable characters is terrifying. But be in touch with yourself enough as a creator and as a writer to know, am I doing this out of fear, or is this something I'm inspired to do? Because that line gets muddied, and it's a terrifying experience to be an author, but there's nothing more powerful than having someone come up to you and say, this story impacted me.
I think when we hide from our writing, it's us hiding from ourselves. We don't want to address those issues, right?
Right.
So once we're vulnerable with ourselves, and then we're still willing to put it out in the world, that's when we make the most compelling art. That's kind of what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, because if you think vulnerability is connection, even whether that's a conversation with your friend or it's art, like, you have to be vulnerable. You know, like, you can't make a deep friend by just talking about the weather. There's nothing to connect to. And thinking about that with your art, you have to be vulnerable. You have to try. You have to swing for the fences. Like, go as far ridiculous as you think and then farther. Like, push yourself to be as vulnerable and as wild and as creative as you can, and then see what happens. I sit down to read a book because I want to be in a different world. I want something kind of crazy. I'm reading fiction because I want something bold. And yet as a creative, I'm always like, is it too bold? You know, there's like this voice in my head that's like, is it too bold? It's not too bold. Like, go there. And then, you know, have good beta readers, because you know, they can always
they'll tell you once you push it a little too far.
Yeah, that's a good safety system to have.
It's the old adage, like they do this with superhero movies so much. Oh, well, we had them save a city, now let's have them save the world. And sometimes you don't need to do that. Sometimes pushing your limits just means looking for new emotional territory. Now, where do people find all these wonderful books that we've talked about today?
So my website's a great place to start, BeccaLeeG.com. That's BeccaleeG.com. And that's also my handle for Instagram and Facebook, everything. I do a lot of events too. So I just finished FanX Salt Lake this weekend. And I got out of sweatpants to come on this podcast.
I feel honored.
I know, right?
Thank you again to my guest, Becca Lee Gardner. As per usual, all the links will be down below, but I want to take a moment to thank her for the vulnerability and the earnest attempt at this conversation that she provided. I can honestly say I've never posted an episode with a guest that I didn't find some insight, but talking to Becca definitely gave me some courage with my next book, which frankly has me terrified at times, and I hope it did the same for you. Thank you so much for joining us, and happy writing.